Group stage 2 well underway here at WCS Montreal as our first series done and dusted, Todd, as we continue things here to find out who is going to be going to BlizzCon. Our next matchup is going to be Poland versus Poland. souL is going to go up against MaNa as we have new guard versus old guard when it comes to the Polish region. I am joined to my left-hand side by Todd once again, and we have Nathanius, who is the previous commentator for our previous series. A little bit of an upset there.
Yeah, it was a fun match. Getting to see a good bit of mech like that out of eThermal was fun, but Jon Snow adapting perfectly. Great play and really showing what you need to get all the way to the finals, considering, especially for eThermal, a player we expect to make deep runs.
Yes.
That's not the start that you want when you need to win this tournament to make it to the global playoffs.
So when Terran was facing North America, where did your bias stand, Nathanius?
I was on the Dutch player side, personally. A little more biased towards that.
Ah, Dutch and Terran.
I forgot my American horse in the race is always Neeb. I would want Neeb to win just so that whoever thought they were going to win and get into BlizzCon is just more sad.
Okay, brilliant. Let's move on. It's Protoss going up against souL, in MaNa going up against souL here as a whole. These two players, they're not any stranger to one another, obviously growing up in the Polish region. souL probably looked up to MaNa for quite a while when it came to MaNa's, Wings of Liberty results and things like that. And both of these players are in a situation where if they had any hopes of going to BlizzCon, they would have to win it all. So they're probably focusing more on just Montreal to start things off.
And we know how good they are. They're both very strong players. MaNa obviously has that history, years and years and years. souL comes in as a player that dominates and does very well in online tournaments, but he doesn't have those big performances. You don't come into this tournament as a spectator and say, yeah, MaNa or souL, both players that could realistically take this. You're like, no, these are your underdog types, and it's a fight between two players that maybe won't be fighting to win, but to be recognized for the time and the skill that they still have and actually make a deep run to finish the year. But it is it makes for a good story, at least in terms of the Polish matchup.
Yeah, souL in particular is one of those players that's not the most well known, but he's definitely come a long way, since the old days where he was like, just one of those Terrans that just gambled 3 CCs like a lot of the time. Nowadays, he's just super solid all around. He's one of the few guys that has made the 7,000 MMR that has passed it once before on the European ladder. So he's very, very strong. And again, this is the winner's match. These guys, they beat Mighty Kiwi and Tesla, so they've already put in a little bit of work. I'd say they're still both kind of the favorites to advance anyway from that one. But a good matchup nonetheless.
Okay, well, I hear that we are ready to head over to the stage. You might think I'm my favorite James, but that's not true. My favorite James is right on the stage. So Mal, how are you doing at the moment? You okay?
Oh, babe, thank you, Claire. See, this is a James Bond right here. Rest of you, I don't know. Maybe change your name to James and then come back to me. We'll see about that. All right, so that was a great start to the first series of this weekend. Oh my God. All right, as you guys all know, next series is going to be MaNa versus souL, souL versus MaNa. As Claire has mentioned, it's the old versus new Polish cards. Now, which Polish player have brought the better Polish version of themselves? Ladies and gents, it's MaNa and souL.
That's right, as they exchange handshakes and they head to their booths.
Is there already bad puns? Because I think between the James Bonds and then the Polish thing, like that would skyrocket that clip right there.
Mal's winning.
On the top of it very quickly.
I mean, we talk about jokes. We're like, okay, In Control's here. He usually brings pretty solid jokes, right? Some of us maybe go into like pun territory, but we brought James here to set a new standard.
That's right. That's right. It's fantastic to have him here. And of course, another people to have as good here is MaNa, obviously one of the most winningest players from the Wings of Liberty when it comes to foreigners, going up against souL, who, he basically didn't exist on the premier international scene back then. Not too much in Heart of the Swarm, a little bit dabbled here or there, but in Legacy of the Void, he's come into his own, and a lot of those lower Protoss players, lower Polish players in the scene have certainly risen in the ranks, such as souL.
Yeah, well, you talk about the story, like the Polish StarCraft scene. Your big dogs a couple of years ago, you got guys like MaNa, tearing it up, great at events like WCS Krakow. But the story this year, story last year especially, or maybe more so this year, guys like Nurchio, right? Like he's the big guy. He's what everybody was looking at, a laser. And now it's like, well, MaNa's not seen as quite up that high anymore. But this is, we know he has that. If there's one thing we know about the best players, you know, of any times that they can bring that back for, you know, a tournament or two at any time.
There used to be a long time ago, Todd, where MaNa's PvT used to be very aggressive. But I'm talking about expansions ago. How does MaNa now approach someone like souL here in one of the earlier rounds of WCS Montreal?
I think just, you know, playing standard, expanding, getting some upgrades. Like, you can throw in some all-ins here and there, like, depending on the map as well. Like, MaNa he's very flexible with his builds. He can play many different styles, and I feel like he's at a time where he probably doesn't have too much pressure, you know, to try and make it to the global finals. Like, with all the experience that he has and stuff, he's probably thinking, you know, I'll just try and play the best that I can, and if I can make it good, but my chances are pretty low anyway. So, yeah, I think if he just plays like that, like tries to remove any pressure, just tries to play the best StarCraft that he can here. He might be able to do all right here against a souL, who, like I said, is very good, but on a big stage like this, hasn't always, you know, delivered the same performance that he does on the ladder, where, again, you know, he was one of those few guys, that little elite club where they made it past the 7,000 MMR, which is very hard to reach.
Anything you take from these maps as we continue on?
For Terran vs. Protoss, I mean, Mech Depot. I like most of the maps in this pool personally. I have a lot of bad things to say about them. I find Interloper is not necessarily like a bad map for any race, but it's a very awkward map because there's so many line of sight blockers, so many narrow choke points, different ways that you can move it around. But I have to go with Todd on this one. Like, you come into this tournament, the number of players that are seen as, you know, the top of the top that need to win this to get to BlizzCon. Like, when you look at the situation with players like Thermal, players like Scarlet, True, these guys, like, the question becomes, like, whoever wins this, like, how far can the winner of this match go? Like, how good is this series going to be? How much have they actually brought to this tournament?
That's right. Well, thank you very much, gents. I'll check in with you later. As for now, we are ready to head over to our commentary team for souL versus MaNa. Bringing you this will be Rotterdam and Zombie Grub.
Thank you very much, James. It is indeed time for our second best of 3 of the day, and it's going to be an all-Polish encounter between one name that indeed has risen up very high in the past and a new kid on the block, that is souL. Joined by me is Zombie Grub. How are we doing today, Jess?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. And how are you doing, Roddy?
Feeling good, getting excited. It's always like first day of the tournament, you know, you kind of roll into it and you hope that things go well. You hope that you get into like the right mood immediately, cast StarCraft 2. And I feel with each passing game, the second best of 3, I'm already feeling it. Love the first series of the day. I'd say a tiny surprise, Jon Snow winning.
Oh, yeah?
And I'm very curious to see what this PvT will bring us.
Yeah, I am looking forward to it. We are on Mech Depot for game number 1, and in the top right for Team Liquid, it is MaNa.
On the left bottom side of Mech Depot, we're looking at the main base of this young Polish Terran player. It is souL. I think it's safe to say that this hasn't really been MaNa's best year out of his career. He had a couple of great years, obviously, early on, but even 2015 was a really good year when he made it to the finals of WCS Season 3 back then in Poland against Lil Wow. I think that's one of the greatest tournaments we ever had in the foreign scene. This year, it's just not really been his year, and from time to time, he even seemed a little demotivated. And a few people on Twitter were even surprised that MaNa made it all the way out here since he didn't qualify through Challenger or something, and they were wondering if he would even make the journey, but I mean, he decided to come after all, so we can only assume that he has actually put in the hours and is ready.
I mean, when I watch MaNa play in the online cups, it's like there's always those flashes of brilliance, especially when things get scrappy. It's like when this guy's down 50 supply, that's when he plays like a mastermind. So we already might be getting a little bit scrappy with MaNa proxying a pylon. souL's already scouting, though, and should notice something is amiss.
Yeah, I think souL is pretty confident going into this series. He's a very confident young man. He looked at this group, and I think that he's like, oh, I'm going to be able to make it out of here. I believe Tesla and Mighty Kiwi are the ones completing this group. That is still a relatively fast Nexus, by the way, going down for MaNa, perhaps because there was a scout. But he opened up with a pretty quick double gas. I mean, souL is obviously not crazy. He realized that the timings are a tiny bit off here. Yeah. Didn't see a second pylon either, but I wonder if he knows exactly what he's up against.
Yeah, of course you get in there and you get the full scout and you realize something is amiss, but there is something to be said about an assumption when you see the Nexus is down. You don't really pay attention, like, well, what is that off? And you don't even bother looking for the second pylon. That would be a huge problem, though. I mean, souL's SCV is already not returning home the usual way, and he might even cross paths with the probe that was sent out, and he's Probably just going to chase that for a little while, hope it reveals something, but I hasn't actually scouted the Stargate, because, I mean, who would? It's on MaNa's side of the map.
Yeah, it's a proxy, but it's obviously not an ultra proxy. It's not incredibly close towards the main base of souL. And for the people who wonder, like, why would you actually do it? I mean, it's still kind of a safe proxy, right? Because of the rocks, it's going to take a long time before the Terran units are ever going to be able to jump on top of that Stargate. And this is still going to get a couple of seconds of the Oracle arriving into the Terran's main base. A few seconds faster than it normally is. That's a cute grenade. He's actually going to get that probe. That's nice.
Nicely done. You can go in and scout now, too. So souL did put his command center on the high ground in the main base, so he definitely saw that something was amiss. I mean, this isn't the thing you have to do, but it certainly is the safe way to play. He's going for a 1-1-1, so he's going to have the Widow Mines, but actually getting on top of the supply depot, probably just going to run away.
That is a nice scout, though, I think, by the Adept.
Yeah.
You do a little bit of damage to one of these Marines, and you also know there is a Widow Mine out there, so you got to be very careful. That's a sloppy mistake by MaNa. He was not supposed to let that Shade finish up, unless he tried to trigger the mine, but I don't think that was going to ever happen.
Yeah.
Where is the mine right now?
I think it went through the mineral
Marines.
line. Yeah. I mean, it's actually kind of a cool bait right there. They're so weak. There's only 4 of them. Like, go for them all.
No.
That's exactly what souL was hoping for. MaNa making a big mistake right there. His proxy not working out. Has to get a second Oracle anyways. They'll have the scouting and the revelation to use, but no damage actually done. Actually getting a third Oracle even.
Yeah, that's absolutely not the first Oracle that you have in mind, that you dream of, especially now when you proxy the Stargate to some degree as well. And like you said, he's even going to go all the way up to Oracle, technically number 3, that is now Oracle number 2. MaNa's going to be very careful once again, gets so damn close towards that Widow Mine. This time the mine did not shoot, but that was very close. Cute micro there by souL.
This is actually some really nice micro from souL here. He's still going to be able to actually execute the Widow Mine drop. Is it going to be with the Marines? It is going to be with the Marines. So Viking pops out to help deal with the Oracle that is now pretty weak.
That Reaper has been awesome, by the way. Actually, gave a lot of information about obviously the first Oracle, the second Oracle coming in as well. And I think it even could have seen Oracle number 3 there. This medevac drop could potentially do a little bit of damage. MaNa is sending the Oracles back home, though, and that's crucial because obviously he doesn't have a robotics facility yet, so there are no observers at home.
Yeah, and he's even only just now getting a mothership core, so only 1 photon overcharge. It would be quite enough to pop off both Widow Mines. Where are they actually going to be going here? Scouted by the Phoenix, he decides to go to the ramp, which is a very tricky spot for the Protoss player.
I would like to see him move one of the mines a little bit forward, because right now one Oracle could technically tag both mines at once. I think it would be a little bit smarter to maybe just burrow one mine there on top of the ramp and try to run the other one into a mineral line, whether it's in the natural or on the top side. Oracle's going to get awfully close towards these mines, but good tag there.
Yeah, nicely done. I mean, sometimes they put them on the ramp like that. They look for those aggressive attacks, actually taking out the units, but MaNa was very patient with that. Obviously not chasing down the medevac, so that's allowed to get away here. Even scouts where that weird Stargate was, and that it is still pumping Phoenixes.
So after all of this, MaNa is up 4 or 5 workers, which technically is all right, but that's not necessarily as many as you would like to be ahead as a Protoss player. Does he chase down that medevac and is able to get the kill? Got a couple of Marines as well. The biggest problem with MaNa's build right now, though, is that it's going to take a very long time before he gets an actual army, right? Like, before those units are out with any sort of upgrades from the Twilight Council, where they go for charge or Blink. Well, Blink is a little bit unlikely after the Stargate, but Resonating Glaives is going to take a little while. Robotics facility is still not even on the field. And I just always feel that's kind of an awkward spot to be in as a Protoss.
Yeah, I'm actually very interested if MaNa is going to go for, okay, he is going to go for charge and +1 armor. I mean, that does seem to be like the thing to do. I know Zest really loved it too. And some people are still sticking with Resonating Glaives. But charge for MaNa. souL, talking about upgrades for the Protoss players. souL also really only recently started stim and combat shields. And you don't want to be pushing out without that stim. A successful revelation, a couple more Vikings. It's an interesting response. You really need like either a lot of Vikings take on the Phoenix or just don't bother going with Vikings for the Phoenixes.
I think maybe that's to get a final hit off on an Oracle that was still alive, or maybe he was worried about a faster Prism and some mass warpins, but 2 Vikings is indeed normally not something you really want to go for when you face 4, 5, 6, 7 Phoenixes.
Yeah, it's just a very odd number. I mean, anyway, got the original one, but then to add another one, just a little weird. But we'll see if it can help out. Certainly, if he can target fire the Oracles with a push with those, that might actually be worth it. If they help, stop them from picking up a Widow Mine, then that is worth it. And speaking of which, we have another medevac drop. The Phoenixes are looking elsewhere. and actually doing some damage elsewhere. 4 or 5 SCV is going to go down there. 6, in fact.
Wow.
Not bad.
He was able to, like, it actually would have been a little bit cleaner for MaNa there if he lived, let's say, like 2 at a time, because right now he used so many lifts that one of these, actually only 1 or 2 of the Phoenixes were shooting, so then it takes a little bit longer to kill all the SCVs. But in the end, he got the job done, and he didn't lose any of his own Phoenixes, so it was good. There is a cannon in this middle line as well that's going to be able to keep these probes safe against this mine drop. I thought MaNa's opening was a little bit sloppy, especially after losing that first Oracle, obviously, but you gotta say that the last 2-3 minutes in this game, things have been going quite well for him.
Yeah, I'd say so. Definitely, yeah, ahead on the resources lost, taking a really quick 4th base, cleaning up this Widow Mine drop, and yeah, probably getting that medevac eventually.
Well, he was supposed to, yeah.
He'll come back for that one. But yeah, I'm guessing souL is probably like on hockey day, like, isn't going to pay attention to it. But he is on a 3rd base. He's gathering his army. I mean, he has stim and combat shields, but decided not to go for drops. Of course, the threat of the Phoenix, way too real. So he wants to wait for a bigger, bulkier army to really just push. Assumingly, the 3rd base is usually what happens on Mech Depot, but the 4th base he just saw be put down. I would say that most people aren't taking that far right one, but MaNa does.
Kind of cool upgrades as well by MaNa. He never got +1 attack, but he's getting +2 armor. Now he's getting +1 plasma shields as well, because he is getting Archons. So his army is going to be very tanky, won't deal that much damage. One of the Oracles got picked up there as well. MaNa's going to be very careful. You don't want to lose all the Oracles. That's the 2nd Oracle that went down already in this game. And, you know, no matter how you look at it, Oracles are expensive in pretty much any phase of the game.
Putting a 4th base down on location is pretty courageous against the Phoenixes. You think they'd find them sooner or later. But this army of souL it's certainly scary, but they have an even army supply, and he's still waiting on actually, he went for double upgrades instead of going for one, then the other one.
I feel like if there's ever a good moment for MaNa to fight, I'd say it would be now. Let's get 1 or 2 more big warp-ins, try to attack the Terran army when all of the mines are unbarreled, and that should be his moment to go for it. That's a big stim, though. I don't know if the Zealot count is high enough.
Yeah, there's not a lot of Zealots, but there are certainly a lot of Archons, and the force fields are pretty good there. But actually target firing the Archons on the left side, he's going to be able to take those out, maybe barely be able to take out the rest of the charge lots, but a lot of the medevacs went down, the Liberators went down. Oh, but so did all the Phoenix.
Yeah, Guardian Shield was incredibly useful. And this is one of these fights where you might think like, oh, that went all right for the Protoss, right? It's chasing down the army. I don't think that was good because he lost so many expensive units. Fought right before +1 Plasma Shield, fought right before +2 armor. And I felt overall right now he doesn't have any way to reinforce his army. So that's 2 Archons that just got picked off. There is a Zealot run by, so that's actually doing some serious damage. I still don't think that was great for MaNa, but this Zealot run-by is obviously what's saving that entire fight.
I mean, it makes it look pretty good, in fact. souL just finished up his 4th base, going to turn that into planetary, but it is kind of like, well, who did come out ahead there? Losing the Phoenixes like that, not usually what you want. They usually can survive in a very long time. Oh, come on, Zealots. How do you do it?
souL, you have an entire army standing there. It would be nice.
But then souL lost all of his medevacs, and, you know, even though he tried to stand his ground, he was still a very weak army, and is behind 20 workers now due to that counterattack. The army supply is still even. Upgrade still on the way for both players, but souL, did he cancel +2 weapons or just didn't start it?
No, he didn't start it yet. I mean, his upgrade is actually just, hopefully he didn't queue it up. That would be a big surprise. No, he just didn't start it. And that's kind of funny because I actually feel that +2 attack is a lot more important here than +2 armor, since MaNa didn't really even have any attack upgrades on his units anyway. MaNa just looked at his armies like Zealots do a lot of damage anyway. The most important thing for me is that they survive. As he jumps on top of this orbital, more SCVs are going to go down. There isn't that much anti-air, so these Liberators are very scary.
Yeah, we have a kind of, I guess, like the weird composition here. The Phoenixes successfully took out the starting Liberators, but because all the Phoenixes died, they can't take out these ones. But then souL is now not getting medevacs, trying to get the Liberator count high, and is a very weak army every time we see them almost engage. MaNa is continuing to reinforce with, I mean, cheaper units, with the charge lots, of course, than the rest of the Protoss army, and is just like skyrocketed in supply, and is actually looking quite good. Now a couple of Stalkers coming in here since his anti-air was killed off earlier. I actually put MaNa in a really good position in souL. I don't know if, I mean, mass Liberators, man. If you can get there, that's going to save you a lot of headache, but he's not there, and he's just now replacing his medevacs.
Yeah, the funny thing is he has a fusion core. That's a big stim as well. A lot of these buy units are very low on HP. The libs were not set up properly. Running towards his planetary fortress is pretty much the only thing that's going to keep him safe. But I agree with you. Obviously, things look rough for souL. He just doesn't have these units in the air that he truly needs.
These Liberators are going to be taken care of even by a couple of Archons. GG, well played. And that last Zealot counterattack, and MaNa does take game number 1.
I mean, you said it in the beginning of the game, MaNa is one of these players that looks really good when things get scrappy, and I think this game got a little scrappy at first, and this is something I've always felt about MaNa, even in his glory days, when he was straight up winning tournaments in the foreign scene. MaNa never really looked like the cleanest Protoss out there, but also just very good in chaos, very good in just, you know, getting games wild and dirty and trading a lot. He really loves to trade. He doesn't love these slow and steady games where both players just max out to 170, 180, one big engagement. I don't think that's where he shines. MaNa shines at run buys. He should have been a Zerg player.
Yeah, obviously. I absolutely agree. Now for souL, a guy that I guess everyone's like, well, can he even do something? He's like the new Polish player coming in here. I actually have a lot of respect for souL. I've seen him a couple of online cups along with MaNa, but yeah, the question is, like, can he do it on stage? And that game, well, it just wasn't very convincing, right? Like, he didn't have a bad start at all. He took out that Oracle, no problem, no proxy, no problem, and it just didn't really actually go to a very powerful mid game. The army supplies were even. The army type was okay. I mean, bio with a couple liberators, but it was clear to me that he wanted to get to mass liberators, got that fast fusion core, and just wasn't able to ever get there.
I'm gonna be a little bit critical of souL that it doesn't make that much sense to move out when you're like close to getting up to 4 bases up and running. You're gonna get a planetary there as well. You have a fusion core that you actually didn't use yet. You're down in upgrades. What exactly was the point of him moving out in the right bottom side there, even fighting on MaNa's side of the map? I just kind of felt that in no way that was any sort of timing, because his 1-1 wasn't even done yet. So he's fighting 0-0 against at least 0-1, but I think at the end of the fight it was like 1-2. So it was questionable, and I don't think it was necessary for souL to move out there.
Yeah, the tempo of that game was really off, and this might be because maybe, like, I would say that a lot of Protosses aren't going for a lot of Phoenixes anymore. Like, they are playing into, like, immediately playing Stalker after, maybe they're going for the Colossus that are also available, like something like that, but Mass Phoenix maybe not so much. And Terrans, you know, they got used to that. They dealt with that, and then they were okay. But he went up against it again after so long. Maybe he just threw off his tempo. He went in for the defensive long game, but was like, oh, maybe I should do some damage, and then went for a weird attack. He might have just felt uncomfortable in that game, to be honest.
Yeah, and I must say, during that big battle in the right bottom side near that sound like a watchtower, I think the sentries were the real MVP as well, because that entire battle pretty much happened under Guardian Shield, and that just changes everything. I mean, we often talk about upgrades. Well, imagine how big 2 upgrades are in a fight.
Yeah. Well, we're in a game number 2. In the bottom right, as the blue Protoss, it is MaNa.
Over here on the left top side of Odyssey, we're looking at the main base of the young Polish Terran. He's down 0-1. Can he bring it back? It is a souL.
Well, new start in a new game. MaNa might not go for a proxy this time either. Another thing that could have thrown souL off. I mean, I absolutely agree with your point about the timing of that push. It just felt like he was playing a defensive, sit back, get to liberators, and then he pushed instead, and that really cut into his tempo, especially because the charge out run by happened. He was getting to 4 bases, but then he got cut down to 50 workers again while he was trying to get additional structures for that perfect composition. It was really a perfect timing for MaNa and a terrible one for souL.
It was one of these moments where you really wanted to fight for MaNa. I think he could have had a few more Zealots because he was floating a little bit, but in the end it was on his side of the map. He had the upgrade advantage, he had perfect positioning on the sentries, and it's kind of funny because sentries are so impactful in these kind of silly fights early on, but it's still really hard to pick them off, right? Because Marines don't do extra damage, Marauders don't do extra damage, and often if you do right-click on a sentry, then suddenly the Protoss player decides to micro, they pull the sentry back, and then your bio units run into Zealots that just slice them apart. So it just creates for awkward scenarios, but positioning of sentries is very key.
That probe did not give a darn that he was following him. He's like, no, I'm gonna slap down this pylon anyways. But that was a very popular style, I would say, a couple months ago. Like, Hero was kind of leading the charge, or just like the I don't care Protoss, I'm gonna cheese you all the time no matter what, and MaNa is really taken to it. So obviously started off with 1 base and the Ceramic score, now adding Stargate back at home.
So maybe he's going to try to just go for a little bit of aggression with Oracles, but then at the same time followed up with 2 extra gateways, and if there is no bunker in the natural souL, you can wipe in a couple of extra units eventually.
That is becoming super annoying to watch as a Terran player, I suppose. Like, to watch that happen, because that was the thing that happened with Liberty. Like, you wouldn't get a bunker and 3 gateways with Killer, just like, that did not feel very good as a Terran player. So that's kind of been coming back with the Oracle help as well. It can really add up to a lot, even just a couple of slow warpins.
Yep, just a couple of Stalkers have so much micro potential early on against these Marines, and maybe a Marauder or two, as long as they're... Whoa, that's...
Okay, you proxy me, I proxy you.
Kind of wonder though what the point is of that proxy. I mean, he's gonna get the very fast Liberator, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Liberator is the only thing that makes sense here.
Right, yeah. I mean, what do you wait for the Widowmines to walk across the map and then pick them up? That sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, well, Hellions are a little bit faster, and there are 2 Hellions on the way, but it could make sense to just drive the Hellions into the natural and send Liberator into the main. Maybe he could potentially try to pick up the Hellions and drop those into the main. That is a cute little scout with the probe and the pilot. Not exactly sure what the pilot was supposed to achieve, maybe just to scare Soul. This is gonna get hectic, and normally I favor MaNa in hectic scenarios, that we do have that Liberator that is going to show up incredibly fast.
Well, yeah. You know, I wondered if he thought the Stargate was gonna be proxied, because then, like, you know, the Phoenix would come out from across the map to take the Liberator, and he wouldn't be scouted, but he saw the pilot hadn't built anything, so that was confusing.
And I do really like the cancel almost immediately on the second Oracle. MaNa's like, nope, I need a little bit of anti-air, because my Adepts can obviously not deal with it. These Hellions are annoying, but the damage isn't that bad. Well, 4 is actually reasonable for SouL. I think that's pretty much as much as you can hope for.
Yeah, it's kind of perfect for 2 Hellions. The Oracle comes in here, though, and sees that that Widowmine just popped out. Avoid that one. Is he going to try and go in the SCV line? He is, so he's going to rack up a lot more kills.
Yeah, obviously, if you produce 2 Hellions at first, that's the only anti-air mine there is right now. There's no more anti-air in the main base of SouL. SouL decided to gamble a tiny bit, and he's going to pay the price for it. Now, this Liberator will be able to do a little bit of damage on the other side of the map. I would stop mining. You're too close to the circle.
Yeah, that was that was a little bit odd. So they're definitely exchanging blows in the SCV line. The fact that the second Oracle was not built was pretty crucial, as that Widowmine did die, but things are kind of calmed down. The starport actually might even burn down in a single Phoenix, to be honest. 2 Phoenixes now, as has to go all the way across the map on Odyssey, but SouL probably felt a bit of panic once that Widowmine died, realized, okay, I did my own damage too, this isn't the worst thing. Only down 4 workers, it's really not.
Yeah, but I think if MaNa just runs across the map right now with the Oracles as well, this is going to be incredibly problematic for SouL, because he doesn't have a bunker.
Yeah.
He really doesn't have much at all, actually. I don't think he even has enough to kill the Oracle.
I thought I saw on the reduction tab, and maybe I was going crazy. So yeah, he might just lose, well, I don't know about the game, but he'll certainly lose a lot of SCVs, lose control of his natural. He just realizes right now what's here, and there's only a handful of Marines. That Widowmine could get targeted again by the Oracle. In fact, that's exactly what's going to happen. And now the Oracle can help out a tiny bit. No, it gets sniped, but 3 Adepts managed to get in there before the supply depot is raised, and the Cyclone is only now being built.
Yeah, so that was a tiny bit sloppy. Imagine if the Oracle is still alive right now, how many more dead SCVs we're going to have. But regardless of that scenario, MaNa is doing a lot of damage, and MaNa is once again playing the type of game that he loves, where there is just madness happening all over the map. They're both killing way more than you're ever supposed to kill in this phase in the game. But there is nothing left for SouL. He doesn't really have any anti-air. He has nothing that can kill these Phoenixes, and MaNa is doing a really good job in dancing around with these Adepts and just killing as many units as possible.
I don't really blame for SouL not tapping out, though. Of course, the Cyclone will take out the Adepts really quickly. I thought the Phoenixes would lift that one, but that was actually so quick that MaNa didn't even get the chance. But
he could repair it with a couple of SCVs. You don't really want to lose the Cyclone.
You can mass repair it.
SouL? I can't imagine you just want to lose the Cyclone like that.
Okay, well, 10 SCVs did go down. That was a lot more devastating, as there was no equal trade for SouL back on MaNa's side of the map, and now MaNa has control of the skies with the Phoenix and control of map presence too. A bunker is being put down now that he realizes, like, okay, he could maybe warp in a couple more. I'm still low on my production. I only just added on those tech labs to my barracks, and that's a problem not just for production, but also for his upgrades. Stim and combat shields, you see. Probably a good idea to start both at the same time, but they only just started.
So these Phoenixes were a little bit late to the party. I wonder where they came from, but they actually killed that starport on the other side of the map as well. I mean, that happened pretty fast, I guess. Maybe the Mothership Core helped out a little bit as well, but that starport going down just makes it even worse for SouL. Yeah. Down 18 workers, not currently having a starport. I mean, he's gonna lose more as well. That's the worst part about it. MaNa's not even done yet.
It's not a great game for SouL. I mean, things got hectic really fast. Letting those Adepts into that main base. Again, the Adepts try, but that maybe wasn't that great of an idea that time. That was just bad, you know, letting the Adepts in. The Oracle had been taken out, and I don't think he replaced the Oracle, but the Phoenixes are providing enough scouting for sure.
Yeah, and there is nothing really to worry about after killing that starport as well. He knows that there is not going to be a Widowmine drop coming out of somewhere, and obviously SouL has never been in any position to just run a mine across the map, because MaNa has been at the bottom of his natural all the time.
Yeah. Well, souL can't even apply any pressure until that stim is done, so a long ways away. But by the time he thinks he could push out, MaNa will have been off 3 bases for a very long time with his upgrades all done. I think it might actually be MaNa who could push into souL before souL pushes into MaNa.
I don't think that souL should do any pushing in this game. I honestly think that right now the only chance you have is just sit back, macro up, try to get as many Marines as possible, and hope that MaNa sort of trolls the game. That's the only thing you hope for. MaNa is the type of player that as soon as he gets ahead a little bit, he definitely likes to close it out. He's not the type of Protoss to take 5-6 bases and get all the forges. Like, nope, wants to fight, wants to trade, and if he feels like he can close it out, he should. Yeah. So if I was souL right now, I'd say get a couple of defensive mines. Did he salvage the bunker again?
He did, yes. To build a wall.
This young Polish Terran.
Doesn't like bunkers. But I agree. I think he needs to just turtle up and get a lot of Widow Mines. Liberator is going to be a little more difficult with Phoenix is still in the air, but his Widow Mines have been taken out so many times. He's even going to lift these ones. Realize that's not a good idea. But it might already be too late. That Warprism warping into the main base with so many more Adepts.
Yeah, that is a ridiculous amount of Adepts. The mines are quite far out of position as well, so this is going to be very hard. MaNa can obviously just cancel the Shades, and that's what he's going to do. So he's going to be able to get close on the top of these add-ons. It's going to be only a single mine at a time from this point.
Yeah, I mean, there's also not any medevacs coming out. He's supply blocked, but because the starport was taken out so early, there's been only 2 anyways. Widow Mines don't get the greatest shots. And that,
Phoenixes are very exposed, so that's kind of nice at least, but he's not going to be able to get the Prism. If you don't get the Prism, there will always be more Adepts showing up, and I think the Adept count is out of control. GG, MaNa takes the pretty convincing 2-0 victory and advances to the round of 32 here at WCS Montreal. Not what I expected, actually.
No, that was an easier 2-0 than I expected. I definitely thought a 2-1. Maybe even, souL, just like surprising as souL and beating out MaNa. I don't want to attribute to stage nerves. I'm pretty sure this guy has been on stage a couple of times. I don't know, maybe he just has an off day, or maybe MaNa's Protoss style is just a little too weird.
MaNa is definitely different than a lot of the other Protosses that you often play, especially if your name is souL. Even if they come from the same country, MaNa and his shenanigans, it's still hard to go up against, but he looked good, played solid, and in typical MaNa style, likes to trade, likes to fight. Never a dull game when MaNa is in the loading screen.
No, it's not. It's always exciting, and sometimes it falls right on its face, but this time it was absolutely perfect.
We're getting ready for a little interview as MaNa has just advanced to the round of 32, and I believe he's joined on stage by Mal. So James, take it away.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Thank you very much, Kevin. Oh my God, I don't know what is happening today. It's the nerve. It's the nerve. I swear to God. Congratulations on your victory, first of all. And well, not sure if souL would agree with me, but as a country fellow man, he probably grew up watching you, cheering for you. And then now you kind of shed a little tear on him. Any words or words of advice, tips to him?
He just needs more experience on the big stage. I am still much more experienced. I have years of playing in the big tournaments like that on the stage. And right after I shook his hand, he said he got lost a little bit. And I do agree, it's very hard to play in front of a big audience, and it's a big tournament, so he just needs more experience.
Definitely. It's nerve-wracking standing in front of the audience. When I'm at the studio, I do a lot better than this. Just letting you know. Kevin Rotterdam kept selling that you, instead of taking a breeze cruise to your victory, you like to make it into a dogfight. Do you agree with that in any way?
I like to fight. I like to keep my opponent occupied, because then he cannot be aggressive on my side of the map, so I can micro up. So I like to keep my opponents in a place there where they need to defend, and I can do my stuff on the other side.
Yeah, that's definitely a strategy to go for. Now, you must be one of the longest running StarCraft 2 pro gamers at this last stop of WCS 2017 circuit. How do you still stay competitive against all these youngsters, new generation of the players?
I mean, I'm not that old yet. Even though I have the oldest career, I still started my career when I was 14 years old. So now I'm 24, I think. I'm not sure. But yeah, I still have time. I still have the drive. So yeah, it's not that hard for me just yet.
All right. Thank you very much for the interview. Congratulations on the advancement. Best of luck, buddy.
That's right, MaNa able to take the victory there quite convincingly, Nathanius. It was a very solid performance there from MaNa.
Yep, you can definitely see the nerves start to come out when your player can get these micro plays off on you. You have such a hard time dealing with having these handful of units running all over the place. We see on this map, these Adepts, you had SCVs chasing them non-stop, and it just compounded. Just more Adepts showed up, more Phoenix, and yeah, it was that was really tough match for souL.
A little bit of a tough loss there for souL, of course. Todd, you are currently in Harston versus Jon Snow, I believe.
Yeah, and I rewinded the end of game 1. We saw Jon Snow earlier very convincingly beating uThermal. And we all talked, like we all agreed here, that it was going to be a much harder match against Harston. And let's take a look. Let's take a look at what happened here. I've got the end of game 1 here that I'm ready to play back to you guys. So Harston played a Master Oracle style. He made up to 10. He kind of lost them. They've been trading for most of the game. Now we reach a point where he's trying to go into Kairos, and he's going to be attacked into, but not before this happens here. A cheeky little Baneling drop. You know, you don't have much anti-air when you go for this style. Straight into some of these High Templars, blows them up, and then follows up with a massive attack at the front just before the carrier transition is ready. You see these guys, they're just about to come out, so they're not going to be there on time. And at this point, this is the time where Harston, if he can minimize the damage that he's going to take, get enough army, he's going to be in a great position to just beat these Hydralisk and Banelings. But Jon Snow smelled blood in the water. He goes for the attacks, and I mean, the soup never lies at this point. Look at the supply. Like, he's just got so much more, and he's just going to steamroll against the Dutch player. So very surprised here to see Jon Snow play so well. Like, I mean, I know he's good, but he's crushing some of Europe's finest right now in this tournament.
Pretty sick that he was able to get so many of the High Templar before the engagement, really denying the storm counts there.
We've seen that tactic actually in some previous WCS tournaments as well on that map. So it's almost becoming synonymous in PvZ for the Zergs to be able to kind of find that weak spot, which is very impressive.
2017, the year of Baneling drops.
Onto High Templars.
All people talk about, just Baneling drops in general. It is so good.
Nate, you were covering Drogo versus Pili.
Yeah, I'm in game number 2 right now. There was a little bit of back and forth, not too much going on right now. Repositioning a bit, Pili leading the series 1-0. There's basically just a lot of aggression with the gateway and robotics units, a lot of these sort of plays here. He's going to be able to grab. This is in the game. We are live right now as Petit Drogo, snapping up that War Prism, trying to do a bit of counter-harass, pull the army of Pili back. He's getting some probe kills, but yeah, it's overall nice back and forth series that we have going on there as well in that PvP.
Important to emphasize that Petit Drogo currently ranked 14th in the WCS standings. If he does lose out there, he's in dire straits, to say the least. Let's check in with the group stage here for WCS Montreal to get you updated as to all the results that are coming in throughout the group stage number 2. As looking at down the line there, wow, Jig. Is that a 2-0 from Jig there in Group C? Very impressive stuff from him. Any other results that really pop out to you there, guys?
Puck took a 2-0 victory over Sort of, and currently doing well in Group B. Another American player that we haven't seen get quite the big results recently.
Group stage 1, Puck beat DNS. In Group stage 2, DNS beat Special.
Yes, that's very important. And
those are very big results for all of these guys.
Yeah, beat Zanster as well, which, fully enough, is actually going to be our next fixture. It's going to be Special going up against Zanster in just a few moments' time here. And that's the elimination match for that group, or at least even the match to advance on into the next group stage. And Special at the moment is in a very firm spot in the WCS standings, correct?
Yeah, well, he's one of the most dominant players that we've seen performing this year, doing very well for himself. He's not a player that you want to run into. He's like a Neeb, who secured himself very far, doing very well. If you hit them, it's like, well, they're not playing for the same thing that you are. It just makes it even that much more stressful.
All right, well, we'll get onto that after the break here as we continue things on for WCS Montreal. So join us right after as Special goes up against Zanster.